jumps 7% as Russia isolation triggers shortfall fears. Fifth edition of Nigeria International Energy Summit underway in Abuja with calls for action on sustainable energy future. Russian ruble hits 30% low after latest sanctions. Plus, Business Express takes a look at public finance management in the recovery economy. We are reaching you on the network service of Nigerian Television Authority from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Good to have you join us on the business side of life. We start by telling you that OPEC Secretary General Mohammed Sanusi Barkindo, speaking on revitalizing the energy industry, future fuels, and energy transition at the ongoing 5th Nigeria International Energy Summit in Abuja, says the oil industry is facing multiple challenges that are pressuring oil companies and governments to pursue aggressive policies and initiatives that could in the end be more disruptive rather than productive for the global energy industry. Barkindo is of the view that industry players must approach these critical issues together through dialogue and cooperation, ensuring that all voices are heard and all viewpoints are considered with a view to attaining a sustainable energy future.
Distortions and price volatility. This has been evident over the past few months in Europe and now across the world. This narrative does not correlate with the future trajectory of the world's energy needs. It would be a tragedy of unimaginable proportions if, despite billions of dollars being poured into investments for these resources, this went to waste as stranded assets.
And that's a generation and its analysis economists believe are critical to development of agriculture, as it shows the correlation between demand to food supply and cash crops. Musa Aliu reports that this is why the federal government is putting together what is termed Reliable Agricultural Data Collation System for the development of the sector through partnership between cotton farmers and the National Bureau of Statistics.
It will help to provide the management of cotton and other relevant stakeholders with adequate, reliable, and timely circle information for informed decision-making process.
NBS has been most professional and very forthcoming. This MOU will go a long way to improve the way we live and the way we work. In our business, cotton, textile, garment sector, we are looking to grow and compete better with adequate and quality data.
Well, at the end of last week's transactions, the financial services industry led the activity chart with 1.102 billion shares valued at 10.9 billion naira. Bossed Abel has more on the market.
Nigeria's stock market closed the week ended Friday, February 25th in green. The NGX All-Share Index increased by 0.04% to close the week at 47,328.42 basis points, while market capitalization advanced to 25.5 trillion naira. 1.6 billion shares worth 19.4 billion naira in 25,979 deals were traded in the week by investors on the floor of the exchange. All other indices finished higher, with the exception of NGX ASM, NGX Mary Value, NGX Consumer Goods, NGX Lotus 2, NGX Industrial Goods, and NGX Sovereign Bond indices, which depreciated, while the NGX Growth index closed flat. The financial services industry measured by volume led the activity chart with 1.1 billion shares, valued at 10.8 billion naira, traded in 13,514 deals. The conglomerates industry followed, while the third place was the consumer goods industry. Trading in the top three equities were Transnational Corporation of Nigeria, United Capital and Zenith Bank. They mutually accounted for 491.6 million shares worth 5.4 billion naira in 4,277 deals. A total of 1,622 units of exchange-traded products, ETPs, valued at 775,980 naira 88 kobo were traded in the week in 27 deals, as well as 67,646 units of federal government bonds valued at 76.3 million naira traded in 11 deals. 44 equities appreciated in price during the week, while 90 equities remained unchanged. Boss said the Able Business Express.
And the European markets set to plummet at the open as new sanctions are imposed on Russia, just as Asia markets mixed as investors assess Russia-Ukraine crisis. Neka Oko has more on that.
Hello and welcome to the Global Market Review. Global markets fell on Monday amid heightened uncertainty after Western nations escalated sanctions on Russia for the invasion of Ukraine. In Europe, stocks were sharply lower. The DAX dropped 2.32%, London's FTSE depreciated by 1.23%, while FTSE 40 sank 3.02%. U.S. stock futures also moved lower in early trades as investors grew worried about the economic ramifications of the crisis between Russia and Ukraine. Dow futures dropped 424 points, S&P 500 depreciated by 1.48%, and Nasdaq 100 declined 1.32%. Stocks in Asia Pacific were mixed on Monday. Japan's Nikkei 225, after struggling for direction earlier, closed up 0.19% to 26,526.82. The Shanghai Composite in China rose 0.32%, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index dropped 0.24%. African markets also traded mixed as the worry over Russia and Ukraine extend to the continent. Tunisia's Tunidex is leading losses in North Africa, while markets in West and Southern Africa recorded marginal gains. And that's Global Market Review. I am Neka Oko.
And now on the ongoing 5th International Energy opens up in Abuja, where the need for peculiar consideration for Africa to be carried along in the global clamor for energy transition has re-echoed at the ongoing Nigeria International Energy Summit 2022. Key players at the ongoing summit also called for expansion of opportunities in the global partnership occasioned by the energy transition to ensure justice for all. With the theme Revitalizing the Industry, Future Fuels and Energy Transition, the summit, formerly known as the Nigeria International Petroleum Summit, has been renamed the Nigeria International Energy Summit. Experts say they are committed to keying into the global energy transition and shift to attaining net zero emission. And oil prices jumped early Monday after the U.S. and Western allies imposed sanctions on specific Russian banks, prompting fears that energy supplies will be indirectly affected. Brent crude, the international oil benchmark, rose by as much as 7% to trade as high as $105 per barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures, the U.S. benchmark, also gained as much as 7% to trade above 98 per barrel. Prices later eased slightly. The WTI was up 5.0 to 20 cents per barrel, while Brent gained 4.78% to trade at $102.61 per barrel. Both contracts broke above $100 on Thursday for the first time since 2014 after Russia invaded Ukraine. On this note, let's now take a trip to the commodities market. The process of measuring, processing, and recording of financial transactions of any organization for the purpose of analyzing for management, stakeholders, and investors' decision is simply accounting. How does this apply in today's reality of an economy that is looking to recover? I have with me the President Association of National Accountants of Nigeria, ANAN. He is no other person but the renowned Professor Benjamin Osisioma. Prof, you're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you very much. Welcome to this session, viewers.
Prof, the world, the global economy is looking to recover. A lot of developments are taking place in the public sector. And accounting is a key thing. As we are looking to recover, how can the professionals in managing the financial resources of our country, talking about public financing, be effective at this particular point in time? More so that you are engaging in trainings and retrainings across the globe to ensure that best practices are adhered to.
Thank you very much. I must say that I'm proud to be here. I'm very delighted to be part of this program.
Yeah.
Yes, accountants, we hold the pulse, the financial pulse of nations and their economies. But incidentally, accountants are not development economists. But be that as it may, our duty is to observe, like you started, measure, analyze, communicate for effective decision making. At a time like this, you discover that effective and efficient decisions are critical to progress and development. This is not the time to go on a wild goose chase, spraying funds and naira all over the place, and not gathering a rolling stone that gathers no moss. This is not the time for it. This is the time where we stretch every naira of expenditure to extract the highest possible mileage out of it. And that's the place of the accountant, to plan, to provide control systems, to set or show you and enable you see how you can balance interests and obtain the highest possible mileage out of what you're spending.
Well, how are we doing that? I know there are certain innovations, there are certain technologies introduced to ensure that these things are effectively done. With where we are as a global economy, as an African economy also getting to recover, how are we practically putting these tools to practice?
Well, I must say that the government here in Nigeria has grappled quite intelligently with some of these problems. The only thing is that I'm afraid, I hope that they're not being overwhelmed by the nature of the problems. For example, now look at this period of oil scarcity. In one moment you have a glut, in the other moment you have scarcity. The accountant advises you on how to balance these things. So looking at the times in which we live in, these are the times in which we are talking about a fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah.
And some of us have not even perceived that there was a third. And we are moving on to a fourth. We are talking about robotics, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, three-dimensional issues. These are issues that are beyond the ordinary individual. setting up structures that will run on their own. And the problem with us is that the world is not waiting for you.
At all.
We talked about globalization. Globalization came, offered us a platform, but who took advantage of the globalization? The developed countries. We became recipients. So I think the time has come for our leaders to sit down and think. That's what I call development-oriented thinking in governance. Okay. I'm not talking of democracy. We've talked about democracy, we've talked about rule of law, and all that. Very good, excellent. But some of the best leaders in the world were not Democrats. Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore was not a Democrat. The Mokhtar, the emir in Dubai, is not a Democrat. Even the one in Rwanda is not very much of a Democrat. You need to have the mindset to ask yourself, what are the priorities? Only let the priorities guide your action.
Okay, as an institution, you as a person and being an accountant, professional accountant, and also the president of ANAN, how are you passing this knowledge to the professionals for them to actually put it in practice to safeguard what should be?
Thank you very much. This is the core of what we're doing. You know, I keep emphasizing the point that it was ANAN in 1996 that started mandatory continuing professional development for the professions. The idea is that let the professional see emerging trends in his profession. Let him learn new things. Let him re-examine the application of old skills. Let him be re-equipped and retooled and reskilled in preparation for new challenges. And that's what we're trying to do. Give him knowledge. Give him the skills. You know, you were in defining accounting. I like your definition of accounting. But I had one that was very popular as a student. I said, accounting is essentially a system of principles and techniques. There are the two things we find in accounting. You have the principles, how do you apply them? And the idea is to record financial transactions and enable us to take intelligent and defensible decisions.
Now, so, application is key in this whole of this. What is ANAN bringing in? Are there innovations bringing in to ensure that this process is carried out seamlessly?
Well, there's no magic. There's no art for reading a man's face. I mean, a man's construction on his face.
On his face.
All we can do is instruct, teach, enlighten, bring it to you in diverse ways. We will talk about it. We will, in fact, on this MCPD, we are going to, even to take one step further. God helping us, we are going to launch our digital hub tomorrow, because we are now working extensively in battling with making sure that the digital tool is reflected in everything we do. So that's what we need to do. Enlighten our members and draw their attention to what it takes to stand out as a professional. But what they do with what you give is what you cannot decide. Because in the end, individuals have a way of benefit. Two people, I'm a teacher. You come to a class that has never passed through the course you are going to teach. Call them non-entities if you like. They are empty-headed in that area. You talk to them. By the time the year ends, some of them will argue with you on that course and tell you that you don't know anything. It means you have raised people who can challenge you. We do that all the time. So our duty is to try and get people to be better than us.
Okay, talking about this digital hub, what should we expect from this hub? What tools are coming on it? What innovations, and how would how would that actually help the accounting process?
First of all, our college is in Jos, Kwal, near Jos, and there's this challenge of at times Nigeria is not so safe now. We don't even know where to go to, except you go by air. So we are trying now to take the profession to the people, and the digital tool is a ready tool for accomplishing this. We now teach them in their homes. We want to begin to examine them also in their homes. At the first instance, they'll gather at exam centers, and then we organize it from JOS. It will work that way. But we're looking forward to a time where the software will be so perfected that they will sit in the comfort of their homes and write the exams. And if they, the funny thing is that it will become even more serious with supervision and invigilation. than the human tool. If he keeps looking around, the computer will tell you are looking how many degrees beyond where you ought to look.
Wow.
Concentrate. And if you do that a second time, a warning, by the third time, he'll cut you off and shut down your computer.
Yeah, off right.
Yes, you're off. And before you know it, the result will come out that you have failed. So we see a brand new world coming out there. And we don't want to be left behind. We want to be part of what is emerging. And we're not trying to pretend that we are inventing the we are inventors of these things. No, we are not trying to pretend that we are just the first people. We want to walk in the footsteps of those who have learned these things, imbibe the knowledge and pass it on to our people.
Wow. Okay. Now, from what you've said, the Anani University is up and doing.
Yes.
This is a year or two. This innovation is part of it. What other things should we expect from this institution that is coming up at this particular point in time?
Again, it's part of building of human capacity development.
Okay.
Hitherto, people don't associate accountants with PhD, MSc. They just say once you are what was it now, apprenticed, and you have learnt the skill, and you have been certified as a chartered accountant, you just pick up and go out to practice. You don't care when people talk. They say that it's academic. Well, we have decided to bring town and gown together. You see, elsewhere, theory is the basis of practice. And if you practice without attention to theory, you have problems. So we intend to marry the two. And the university affords us a very good opportunity. Right now, we are looking forward to a time when qualified professional accountants will also be qualified PhD holders who have, prepared research papers and delivered them and carried out research, and they've defended them before their peers, and they have been ruled to be doctors. Somebody say when you graduate first, you are just a bachelor in the house.
Wow. And with that,
perpetuating on one side.
Wow.
Then when you get a master's, you're not getting up. But when you become a doctor, you are now in charge of the house, the Lord.
Just the way you rocking it, Prof. Thank you so very much. And when we get to achieve all of that, our economy will get better because we have experts handling the right places at the right time. Thank you so very much, Professor Benjamin Osisioma, for sharing your thoughts with us on the way to go for economic growth and financial management.
I hope you get all our people to come round.
We'll do that.
Be there. And we're expecting you to.
We will be there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
Well, moving on. As investors continue to evaluate the impact of the crisis between Russia and Ukraine, the stock market in Nigeria opened the week on a positive note, being the last day of February. The NGX All-Share Index advanced to close at 47,394.53 basis points after adding 0.14%. Market capitalization inched up to 25.543 trillion naira. 300 million shares were traded in 5,434, valued at 2.771 trillion naira. Well, on that market and note, we end Business Express for today. Business Express returns tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Join us.